Nobody tells you the hardest part about living on your own is not the silence. It is Tuesday at 5:30, standing in a kitchen that used to feed 4, wondering if it is worth cooking for 1. The state pension sits at just over £11,500 a year. After gas, electric, council tax, and the television license, what is left for the weekly shop barely covers a Tesco trolley with room to spare. But here is what the supermarkets do not want you to know. The most comforting, most filling, most genuinely delicious meals in British cooking were designed for exactly this situation. Tight money, small portions, one pair of hands. Number 18 on this list costs less than 60 pence a serving and keeps you warm for hours. Number 7 was invented specifically for people eating alone. And number 1 is the meal every pensioner in Britain deserves to know about. These are 25 cheap comfort meals that prove cooking for 1 is not sad. It is a skill, and you are about to master it. Before we begin, hit subscribe because this list might just change your weekly shop forever. Number 25. Beans on toast with melted cheese. A tin of baked beans costs around 25 pence at Aldi. 2 slices of thick white toast. A handful of grated cheddar, melted under the grill until it bubbles and browns at the edges. The whole thing takes 6 minutes, from cupboard to plate. But here is what makes it comfort food, and not just lazy food. The beans give you protein and fiber. The toast fills you up. The cheese adds fat that keeps hunger away for hours. Pensioners who grew up in the 1950s and the 1960s ate beans on toast as a proper tea, not a last resort. Your mum served this without apology. The trick is to let the beans reduce slightly in the pan, maybe 2 extra minutes on a low heat, so they thicken and cling to the toast instead of running off the sides and pooling on the plate. A shake of Worcestershire sauce in the beans while they heat transforms the whole dish. Total cost, roughly 45 pence. Total washing up is 1 pan, 1 plate, and 1 fork. Number 24. Egg and chips. Egg and chips, a Friday night classic. When nothing else appeals, egg and chips answers every question. 2 eggs, fried in a little butter until the whites set crispy at the edges, but the yolk still runs golden when you cut in. A handful of oven chips, spread on a tray, 20 minutes at 200 degrees. Ketchup or brown sauce, depending on which side of the Watford Gap you grew up on. This was Friday night tea in half the homes in Britain for decades. It requires no skill beyond timing. The chips go in first. The eggs go on when you hear the timer. A pensioner living alone can eat like royalty for under £1. The secret, and every grandmother knew this, is to cook the eggs in the same pan you warmed the beans in yesterday. That faint background flavor, tomato and smoke, makes the eggs taste like a full English without the effort. Egg and chips does not pretend to be anything fancy. That is precisely why it works. Number 23. Tinned soup with a bread roll. Heinz cream of tomato soup heated in a saucepan, not the microwave, because the microwave creates hot spots and leaves the middle cold. A crusty bread roll from the reduced section, warmed in the oven for 3 minutes until the outside crackles when you squeeze it. Butter the roll while it is hot, so the butter melts into every crevice. Then dip. That combination of sweet, tangy soup and warm buttered bread has been warming British pensioners since rationing ended. A tin costs around 80 pence. A roll from Lidl is 36 pence for 6. You are looking at lunch for well under 50 pence. The trick your mum knew was to add a splash of milk to cream of tomato soup as it heats. It turns it from sharp and thin to rich and velvety. 1 splash. That is all. Hospital canteens have been doing this for 60 years and never told anyone. Number 22. Cheese and onion toasty. If you have a sandwich toaster gathering dust in the cupboard, this is its reason for existing. 2 slices of bread, buttered on the outside, grated cheddar and thinly sliced raw onion on the inside. Press it down and wait for the smell to fill the kitchen. 3 minutes. The cheese melts and fuses with the sweet, sharp onion, and the bread turns golden and crunchy. A whole meal for under 40 pence. The sandwich toaster was the greatest invention of the 1970s. For a pensioner eating alone, it means a hot, satisfying meal without lighting the hob or the oven. If you add a thin smear of pickle before closing the lid, you have created something that rivals any pub lunch in the country. Wash it down with a cup of tea, and you are sorted until supper. Number 21. Corned beef hash. A tin of corned beef, 2 medium potatoes, and half an onion. That is your shopping list. Peel and dice the potatoes small so they cook faster. Fry the onion in a little oil until soft. Add the potatoes with a splash of water and a lid on the pan. Cook for 10 minutes until they soften. Then crumble in the corned beef, mix it through, press it all flat, and let the bottom crisp up golden brown. Flip it, or do not, nobody is watching. The crispy bits are the whole point. This was the meal that fed Britain through the 1950s, when fridges were rare and tinned meat sat patiently in the cupboard, waiting for its moment. A tin of corned beef costs about £1.50. The potatoes and onion cost pennies. The whole dish feeds one generously for under £1, with leftovers if you are not feeling greedy. HP sauce on the side is not optional. It is structural. Number 20. Scrambled eggs on toast. 2 eggs, a knob of butter, a splash of milk, and low heat. That is the entire recipe. The mistake most people make is rushing it. Scrambled eggs want patience. Stir them slowly in the pan over the gentlest flame, pushing soft curds from the edges to the center. Take the pan off the heat before they look done, because they keep cooking on the plate. Pile them on hot buttered toast with a crack of black pepper, maybe a sprinkle of chives if you have a pot on the windowsill. The whole thing costs about 35 pence and takes 5 minutes. For a pensioner on a fixed income, eggs are the single greatest value in the supermarket. Protein, fat, vitamins, and almost no waste. 2 eggs for breakfast, 2 for lunch if you fancy, and you have still spent less than £1. Your grandmother ate eggs almost every day and never complained about energy bills. Draw your own conclusions. Number 19. Sausage casserole. 4 pork sausages from a value pack, a tin of baked beans, half a tin of chopped tomatoes, and a diced onion. Brown the sausages in a casserole dish on the hob. Add everything else. Put the lid on and slide it into the oven at 180 degrees Celsius for 40 minutes. Walk away. Read the paper. Watch Bargain Hunt. When the timer goes, you have a bubbling, rich, smoky casserole that tastes like it took hours. The sausages go plump and tender, the beans thicken into a sauce, the tomatoes melt into everything. 1 portion tonight, 1 portion tomorrow. That is 2 dinners from ingredients costing about £1.60 total. A bay leaf dropped in before it goes in the oven makes it taste like your mum made it. Nobody will ever know it came together in 4 minutes of actual effort. Number 18. Potato and leek soup. This is the one that costs less than 60 pence and warms you from the inside out. You need 2 medium potatoes, 1 leek, a knob of butter, a stock cube, and water. Slice the leek and soften it in the butter for 5 minutes. Add the diced potatoes and a pint of stock. Simmer for 20 minutes. Mash it roughly with a fork, or blend it smooth if you have a stick blender. Season with salt and white pepper. That is it. A bowl of this with bread is a complete meal. The starch from the potatoes makes it naturally creamy without adding cream. Leeks cost almost nothing. especially in season, and one batch makes 2 generous portions. Freeze the second in a takeaway container, and you have an emergency lunch ready whenever you need it. Welsh grandmothers have been making this for centuries. They called it caul light. It sustained miners and farmers through winters that would break most modern kitchens. Number 17. Fish finger sandwich. 4 fish fingers on a baking tray, 12 minutes in the oven. 2 slices of soft white bread. A squirt of ketchup or tartar sauce if you are feeling continental. Press the fish fingers between the bread while they are still hot so the coating sticks slightly. This is not a children's meal. This is a perfectly balanced combination of protein, carbohydrate, and the kind of nostalgic joy that no restaurant can manufacture. A box of 10 fish fingers costs around £1.50. That makes 2 sandwiches, 2 meals, 75 pence each. Captain Birdseye understood something Michelin star chefs still have not. Sometimes the best meal is the one that makes you feel 8 years old again. Number 16. Macaroni cheese. Dried macaroni, a lump of butter, a spoonful of flour, milk, and strong cheddar. Boil the pasta, then make a quick white sauce in the same pan. Stir in the cheese until it melts and goes glossy. Mix the pasta through. You can eat it straight from the pan if you like. Nobody is judging. The whole thing takes 15 minutes and costs about 80 pence for a single generous serving. A shake of mustard powder in the cheese sauce is the difference between boring and brilliant. Your mum knew this. She also knew that leftover macaroni cheese, pressed into a dish and grilled until the top goes crunchy, makes an even better lunch the next day. 1 recipe, 2 meals, under £1. That is pensioner economics at its finest. 1 large baking potato, scrubbed and pricked, goes in the oven at 200 degrees for an hour and a half, or 40 minutes in the microwave if patience is thin. The oven version is better. The skin goes crispy and salty while the inside turns fluffy and steaming. Split it open, drop in a generous knob of butter and a fistful of grated cheese. Watch it melt. A baking potato costs about 30 pence. The butter and cheese add maybe 20 pence more. For 50 pence you have a meal that fills you completely, requires almost no washing up, and tastes like a hug from someone who actually cares. Add a tin of tuna mixed with a squeeze of mayonnaise, and you have upgraded it to a feast. Add baked beans, and you have crossed into luxury. The jacket potato is the most versatile meal in Britain, and it asks nothing of you except a functioning oven. Number 14. Welsh rarebit. This is cheese on toast for adults. Grate strong cheddar into a saucepan with a splash of milk, a teaspoon of mustard, a shake of Worcestershire sauce, and a pinch of flour. Stir it over low heat until it becomes a thick, glossy paste. Spread it onto toast, then slide it under the grill until it puffs up and goes golden brown with dark, speckled edges. The mustard cuts through the richness. The Worcestershire adds depth. It tastes like a cheese toastie went to university and came back with opinions. A single portion costs about 40 pence and takes less than 10 minutes. This was pub food before pubs started charging £14 for a burger. For a pensioner eating alone, Welsh rarebit feels like an event. It feels like you have made something proper, because you have. Number 13. Liver and onions. Lamb's liver from the butcher costs almost nothing, because nobody buys it anymore. Slice it thin, dust it with seasoned flour, and fry it fast in a hot pan with butter. 2 minutes on each side. No more, or it turns to shoe leather. Meanwhile, slice 2 onions and cook them low and slow until they collapse into sweet, golden ribbons. Pile the onions on top of the liver. Serve with mashed potato and a river of gravy made from the pan juices, a stock cube, and a splash of water. This meal costs about £1.20 and it is packed with iron and B vitamins. Your nan ate this once a week, and she never complained about being tired. Doctors used to prescribe liver for anemia. The whole medical establishment agreed it was good for you. Then everyone decided they did not like the taste and switched to supplements costing £4 a bottle. The old ways made more sense. Number 12. Mince and tatties. Half a pound of beef mince browned in a pan with a diced onion and a grated carrot. Add a stock cube dissolved in half a pint of water, a splash of Worcestershire sauce, and a bay leaf. Simmer it for 30 minutes while you boil and mash potatoes with butter and milk. Spoon the mince over the mash or serve it beside it. Gravy is optional, but recommended. This was the Tuesday night meal in every Scottish household for the best part of a century, and it crossed the border because it is simply too good to stay regional. The total cost sits around £1.50 for a generous single serving. The mince reheats beautifully the next day, which means Wednesday's lunch is already sorted. A pensioner with a freezer can batch cook this and have 4 portions ready for under £6. That is £1.50 a meal, every time. Number 11. Omelette with whatever is in the fridge. 3 eggs, beaten with a fork. A knob of butter in a hot pan. Pour the eggs in, let them set on the bottom, then tilt the pan so the runny top flows to the edges. Scatter whatever you have across one half, leftover ham, a few mushrooms, that last bit of cheese going hard at the edges, a spoonful of frozen peas. Fold it over and slide it onto a plate. It takes 3 minutes, start to finish. Simple. The omelette is the single greatest weapon against food waste in the British kitchen. Nothing is too small, too old, or too random to go inside. A pensioner living alone wastes less when every scrap has a destination, and that destination is tomorrow's omelette. Total cost depends on what you already have, but even starting from scratch, you are looking at about 50 pence. Number 10. Toad in the hole for 1. 2 sausages, 3 tablespoons of flour, 1 egg, and a 1/4 pint of milk. Preheat the oven and get a small baking dish smoking hot with a tablespoon of oil in the oven. Drop the sausages in, then pour the batter around them. Bake at 220 degrees for 25 minutes. The batter rises golden and crisp around the sausages, creating its own sauce-catching architecture. Serve with onion gravy from a packet if you like, or make proper gravy in the time it takes to set the table. This scales down perfectly for 1 person. The mistake most people make is using too big a dish, which spreads the batter thin and leaves it flat. A small dish forces the batter upward. That is the secret. Total cost, roughly 65 pence. Total satisfaction, immeasurable. Number 9. Soup and a sandwich. Not separately. Together. A mug of soup in one hand, a cheese and pickle sandwich in the other. The soup can come from a tin, a carton, or yesterday's leftovers blitzed with a stock cube. The sandwich wants good bread, strong cheddar, and Branston. This combination is greater than the sum of its parts. The warm soup and the cold sandwich play off each other, the crunch against the smooth, the sharp pickle against the mellow broth. Pensioners in Britain have been eating exactly this for lunch since the 1960s, and nobody has improved on it yet. Cost depends on what soup you choose, but you can do this for well under £1. It is the kind of meal you make without thinking, eat without guilt, and remember fondly at 3 in the afternoon when you realize you are not hungry at all. Number 8. Shepherd's pie for 1. Leftover mince from Tuesday night. If you made mince and tatties on Tuesday, this is Wednesday's reward. Spoon the leftover mince into a small oven dish. Top with leftover mash. Fork the mash into ridges, dot the top with butter. and grill until the peaks go golden and crunchy. The mince underneath heats through, and the top becomes a landscape of crispy potato mountains. This is the laziest and most brilliant piece of meal planning in Britain. You cooked once and ate twice. 2 different meals, same ingredients. The shepherd's pie version tastes completely different because the oven does something magical to the mash when it crisps up on top. The cost is effectively free if you already made the mince. Even from scratch, a single serving shepherd's pie costs about £1.70, and it feels like the kind of meal someone made for you with love. Number 7. Sardines on toast. A tin of sardines in tomato sauce, mashed lightly with a fork and spread on hot buttered toast. A squeeze of lemon, if you have one. A crack of pepper. This meal was designed for one person. The tin is the perfect single portion. The sardines are packed with omega-3, calcium from the soft bones, and enough protein to keep you going all afternoon. A tin costs about 60 pence at most supermarkets. Some are cheaper. The toast costs pennies. You are eating a meal that is genuinely better for you than most things in the ready meal aisle, and it costs a fraction of the price. Your granddad ate this every Saturday lunchtime with a cup of strong tea and the football results on the radio. He was on to something. The health food industry now charges £15 for a supplement to replicate that. Half a cauliflower, broken into florets, boiled for 5 minutes. A simple cheese sauce made the same way as macaroni cheese. Pour it over the cauliflower in a small dish. Grill until bubbling and brown on top. Eat it as a main meal with crusty bread, or as a side to a chop or a sausage. Half a cauliflower costs about 50 pence. The sauce costs pennies. This was the vegetable dish that made children eat their greens without complaint, because it did not taste like vegetables at all. It tasted like cheese and comfort, and Wednesday. A pensioner can make this in 20 minutes, and feel like the kitchen produced something worthwhile. The smell alone, butter and cheese, and that slightly sweet cauliflower steam makes the house feel occupied and alive. That matters when you live on your own. It matters more than people think. Number 5. Bangers and mash. 2 good pork sausages, grilled or fried until the skins split and caramelize. A pile of creamy mashed potato. Onion gravy poured over everything. This is the meal that says everything is going to be all right. It is warm, it is soft, it is easy to eat, and it costs about £1. Gravy is everything. Make it from the sausage pan. Fry a sliced onion in the leftover fat. Add a teaspoon of flour, stir it in, then pour in stock. Let it simmer until thick. That gravy made from the actual sausage drippings contains more flavor than anything in a packet. Pour it over the mash. Let it pool around the sausages. Eat it slowly, because this is not a meal to rush. This is your reward for getting through Monday. Number 4. Chicken soup from a carcass. When the rotisserie chicken from Tesco is stripped to the bones, do not throw it away. Drop the carcass into a pot with water, a chopped onion, a carrot, a stick of celery, and a bay leaf. Simmer it for an hour. Strain it. You now have the richest, most deeply flavored chicken stock you have ever tasted. Add leftover chicken scraps, a handful of noodles or rice, and you have chicken soup that heals everything. A rotisserie chicken costs about £4. You have already got 3 meals from the meat. The soup is effectively free, and it makes another 2 portions. 5 meals from 1 bird for £4. That is 80 pence a meal, and every single one of them is better than anything in a plastic tray from the chilled aisle. The smell of that stock simmering is the smell of a kitchen that is being used properly. Number 3. Cheese and potato pie. Sliced potatoes layered with onions and strong cheddar in a small baking dish with milk poured halfway up. Bake covered with foil for 40 minutes, then remove the foil and bake another 15 minutes until the top goes golden and the cheese crusts into lacy brown edges. This is the meal that northern grandmothers made when the purse was empty, but the family still needed feeding. 3 ingredients. 1 dish. Almost no effort. The potatoes go creamy and soft in the milk, the onions sweeten, and the cheese binds it all together. A single serving costs 55 pence. It is one of the most satisfying things you can put in your mouth for under £1. The dish washes up easily because the milk prevents sticking. You can make it at 10 in the morning and warm it through at tea time. It waits patiently, like all the best comfort food does. Number 2. Tomato soup from scratch. A tin of chopped tomatoes, half an onion, a clove of garlic, a teaspoon of sugar, a stock cube, and a knob of butter. Fry the onion and garlic in the butter. Add the tomatoes, the stock cube, and the sugar. Simmer for 15 minutes. Blend or mash, then season. That is homemade tomato soup, and it costs about 40 pence a bowl. It tastes nothing like the tinned version. It tastes real. It tastes like someone made it, because someone did. You did. For a pensioner eating alone, the act of cooking something from scratch is not about saving money, although it does. It is about the ritual, the chopping, the stirring, the smell filling the kitchen. The moment you taste it from the spoon and add a little more salt. These small acts of care matter. They are the difference between existing in a house and living in one. Serve it with toast or in a mug on the sofa while you watch the 6 o'clock news. What matters is, you made it. Number 1. A proper cup of tea and toast with butter. Not a meal in the traditional sense, something more important. The kettle clicks on. The bread goes in the toaster. You reach for the butter dish and the mug that has been yours for 15 years. The tea brews dark and strong. The toast pops golden. You butter it while it is hot, the way you always have. Corner to corner, right to the edges. You sit in your chair, the one by the window. The house is quiet, but the tea is warm and the butter is melting. For this moment, right now, everything is exactly fine. This costs about 8 pence. It is the cheapest comfort in Britain and the most effective. Every pensioner knows this already. You do not need a recipe. You do not need a shopping list. You need the kettle, the toaster, and 5 minutes of peace. That is the meal that gets you through. Not because it fills your stomach, but because it fills the silence with something familiar. If you made it this far, try one of these this week. Just one: the potato and leek soup, the sardines on toast, the chicken carcass stock. Then come back and tell me which one became your regular. Share it in the comments. I want to know if the cheese and potato pie gets more love than the mince and tatties. Because cooking for one is not about making do. It is about making something worth sitting down for. Your kitchen is not too small. Your pension is not too tight, and you are never too old to make something that tastes like home.